All right, it seems like we are all set, and thank you everyone for coming despite chaos happening outside. And apologies for a delay that we had due to current circumstances. So good morning everyone again, and partners and colleagues, welcome to our side event, which is called Blended Finance for Forest Scaling Community-Based Carbon Program in Asia. So my name is Haydai Jumashova from the Secretariat of the Asian Forest Cooperation Organization in AFoCO, and I'm honored to serve you as a MC of today's side event. And taking this opportunity, I would like to extend my warmest welcome to everyone. So forests are central to climate solutions. This event is, our side event is very important to highlight in today's program about the scaling and helping the communities. So before we proceed, please allow me to introduce the proceedings. So we will have the opening remark by the Vice Executive Director of AFoCO, Mr. Jin Song-pil, and then we'll have a group photo together, and then we'll have the presentations from the respective guests and partners. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to our Vice Executive Director, Mr. Jin Song-pil.
Distinguished delegate, partners and colleagues, good morning and welcome to our session, Blended Finance for Forest Scaling Community-Based Carbon Program in Asia. It is a great honor to open this AFoCO side event here at COP30 in Belém, a place that symbolizes both the urgency and the promise of global forest action. As we gather in the heart of the Amazon, the message from the first global stocktake of the Paris Agreement is clear. Ambition must now become implementation. Forests, as nature's most powerful climate allies, are central to this transformation. Yet, despite their immense value, financing for forest and community-driven programs remains far below what is needed. Over the years, AFoCO has been a constant voice at the COP, working with the member countries and partners to turn forest cooperation into tangible climate action. As the only intergovernmental organization in Asia dedicated exclusively to forests, AFoCO has built a trusted regional platform that connected government, development banks, and the private sector, translating commitments into measurable results on the ground. Guided by the Climate Forest Cooperation Framework and our Climate Action Plan, AFoCO has charted a clear course for the decades ahead to scale up climate finance, to unlock investment confidence in nature-based solutions, and to empower local communities as the heart of climate action. These two policy instruments are not abstract visions. They are our roadmap for implementation. Through a phased approach from policy readiness to on-the-ground action to market integration, AFoCO aims to build a regional ecosystem where public finance, multilateral support, and private investment reinforce one another. Our blended finance model is designed not only to fund the project, but to build trust, inclusive, and shared benefit in our hectares we restore. Today's session embodies this vision. Together with our partners from governments and MDBs to climate finance innovators, we will explore practical ways to scale forest and carbon programs that deliver both environmental integrity and social impact. Looking ahead, AFoCO will continue to serve as a regional bridge between policy and practice, between public and private sectors, and between Asia's forest and the global carbon market. As we move from commitment to concrete result, AFoCO stands ready to lead decades of implementation, ensuring that every investment in forest delivers measurable benefit for people, nature, and the climate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jin Sampir. Next, we are honored to welcome Her Excellency Ms. Dinara Amanturovna Kemelova to talk and share with us about the Kyrgyzstan's case and its potential.
Yes. So, good morning, Executive Director of AFoCO, distinguished guest, and Mr. Kim from Minister of Economy of Korea. And I'm glad to be here because I'm going to present my presentation about improving livelihood of community in mountain regions of Kyrgyzstan. And we started good partnership with AFoCO, and I'm very grateful to AFoCO for supporting some projects in Kyrgyzstan. And so let me start saying about 5 years of action for the development of mountain regions. This 5 years of action was initiated by President of Kyrgyzstan, Mr. Sadir Japarov, and it was endorsed by United Nations General Assembly for the designating 2023 and 2027 as a 5 years of action for the development of mountain regions. What I just would like to stop here. What we are going to talk about 5 years of action for the development of mountain regions. First of all, we would like to have the improvement of livelihood of people who live in mountain areas. For instance, Kyrgyzstan by 94% is covered by mountains, and so we also adopted a national roadmap on 5 years of action in Kyrgyzstan, and so we committed to support livelihood of mountain communities. And second one is also preservation of mountain ecosystems. So restoration of forest and landscape and conservation of flora and fauna species in the mountains of Central Asia is one of the tasks of our national roadmap and regional cooperation. And also we would like to update the regional network of World Heritage natural areas in the Tian Shan and Pamir mountains of Central Asia. So this is, and third one is also one important part of our 5 years of action is how we can adapt and how we can improve resilience of mountain communities and mountain ecosystems to climate change. So our roadmap includes promoting renewable energy, energy efficiency, access to clean water, healthcare, sustainable tourism, and also we are promoting organic production. So recently Kyrgyzstan created several organic regions, districts in our country, and we would like to state that Kyrgyzstan would like to be the organic country in the world. So here I would like to stop what kind of vulnerability specifically related to the mountain areas. So first of all, the first issue is that the melting glaciers, which threaten water supply not only for the people of Kyrgyzstan but all whole Central Asian people. So this is very important to keep and to adapt, how we can adapt to climate change, to provide not only drinking water but water for irrigation, because the problem shortage of water in our region could thereby impact agricultural productivity in our region. So second one is pasture degradation in our regions, which is also critical issues, and because of changing weather patterns, and we have a low precipitation because Central Asian countries, they are landlocked countries. And so in this regard, we also think that this is one of the issues we have to address with. And third one also that, as I said before, it's increasing droughts, which lead to food insecurity in our region. Another one is the loss of biodiversity, which also affects ecosystem resilience, because we have many good, some other flora faunas which under endangered to extinct. So in this regard, we have to, that with the help of international partners, we can conserve biodiversity in our region. So one of the prospects of our 5 years of action and roadmap is diversifying mountain incomes for sustainable livelihoods. And we start that this is very important for the people who live in mountain communities to stay there. And we would like, our government is promoting to enhance some economic motivation to create some, for instance, by promoting ecotourism and other economic activities in the place to keep resilient mountain communities. So Kyrgyzstan could say that we are very rich in our nature. So in this regard, we are promoting ecotourism, and also we working on the reducing pressure on forest and pastures through agroforestry and afforestation. We are implementing unified policy and measures for restoring degraded pastures, and I am very grateful to AFoCO in this, in the promoting this activity, and also we are promoting mountain organic products. I would like to say what we mean by saying that we are promoting mountain products. We would like to create brand of mountain products in Kyrgyzstan, and so we have, for instance, such good products like white honey from mountains, and we have another products like jams and herbs and mushrooms in forest areas, in mountain areas. So we would like to help to people who live in mountain areas to brand their products, and then to create some possibility to have access to the other markets, global markets. So, I would like to stop here. What we are working with AFoCO partnership and with the sustainable forestry initiatives. So the AFoCO partnership plays a crucial role in supporting sustainable forestry practices that enhance the livelihoods of mountain communities in Kyrgyzstan. Through various initiatives, AFoCO focuses on rebuilding ecosystems that have been degraded, while also ensuring that local farmers can benefit economically from these efforts and other projects like seed storage, plant nursery, and other things. So, and also we have a good practice of training in agroforestry techniques. So AFoCO's community-based land management programs train farmers in agroforestry techniques which combine agriculture with forestry to create more resilient ecosystems. This training enables farmers to diversify their income source and improve soil health, ultimately leading to the more sustainable farming practices. And this year, with your representative in Kyrgyzstan, we organized roundtables in the south of Kyrgyzstan, where some farmers could get some kind of certificate of support with financial support for the good farming practices in forestation. So, and you mentioning here that we need some more access of mountain communities to finance and blended solution for communities. So I can say here that there are limited, actually, financial resources to implement all tasks which we have in our roadmap, and so we also support that blended finance models are very effective, and we need some improvement of capacity building, and we also think that several sources of international funding could come together to support very effective projects for the support of mountain ecosystems and mountain communities in Kyrgyzstan, which could empower local entrepreneurs. So, and finally, I would like to also attract your attention that in 2027, from 21st to 23rd of October, we are planning to have Global Mountain Summit in Kyrgyzstan, and we invite AFoCO and Korean partners and other partners from the world to come and to engage in the preparation of this Global Mountain Summit in Kyrgyzstan. We also will focus on the not only mountain issues, but also the issues of degrading pastures, forestry, and other things. So finally, also we promoted that creation of a Bishkek Resilience Center in Kyrgyzstan. We started working with different stakeholders during COP30 at COP30. So we hope that we can work with AFoCO and Korean government in this regard. So thank you very much for your attention, and I am ready to answer your question if you have, because I have to leave to another event in few minutes. Right?
Thank you, Her Excellency, for your amazing and informative speech. Before we proceed, maybe since Her Excellency said she needs to leave a little bit later, can we have a group photo before we proceed with our speakers first? And please come to the stage for a group photo. Thank you. So now we will proceed with the next presentation. The next presentation would be about AFoCO's experience, and we are delighted to invite Ms. Susan Liang. She's a team leader. Please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Susan. I lead the task force on blended finance and private sector engagement. Very nice to meet you. And I hope you had a good luck, because we had a very struggle morning today. It's a pleasure to be here. Over the next 20 minutes, I will be presenting AFoCO's blended finance approach. We will explore how we are building a new financial architecture to bridge the significant funding gap for forest action in Asia, moving from traditional aid to scalable, sustainable investment. So let's begin by setting the stage. We are all here because we understand the critical role of forests. Yet we face a fundamental and persistent challenge. Forests receive less than 3% of global climate finance. At the same time, traditional ODA is declining and simply cannot provide the scale of capital required to meet our climate and biodiversity goals. But here is the paradox. The world is not short on capital. As you can see, private capital for nature has exploded, growing tenfold in just the last 4 years. The challenge, therefore, is not a lack of capital, it's a lack of connection. Forests remain underfunded because public and private finance are not yet effectively linked. We must shift our perspective. Forests are not just carbon sinks, they are investable natural capital that provide measurable value for both the climate and society. Blended finance is the mechanism to bridge this gap. This financial approach is the engine for our entire strategy. AFoCO's 10-year climate action plan, which was started from this year, is built on 3 interconnected pillars: forest land restoration, community solutions, and digital innovations. Blended finance is the cross-cutting tool that leverages all 3 of these pillars, helping us turn ambitious policy into tangible, investable action on the ground. So let's ask a question. Why is AFoCO positioned to lead this? First, as an organization with 17 member countries, we have unparalleled regional legitimacy and direct access to policymakers in the forest and forestry sector. Second, as a treaty-based IGO, AFoCO provides the policy continuity, safeguards, and credibility that private investors require. This is crucial for de-risking investments related to land use and policy. Third, we have a decade of operational readiness and project implementation experience. We are now leveraging this unique position to build forest-based public-private partnerships through 2 key platforms: FAF, Friends of Asia and Asian Forests, which connects policymakers with corporate partners, and CAMP, the Climate Action Matching Platform, which matches investment-ready projects with funders. Our unique value proposition can be summarized as the ACE model. A is action-oriented. We empower communities through locally driven initiatives, ensuring ownership. This is inspired by Korea's own successful reforestation legacy, Semaurundong. We know how to translate lessons into on-the-ground impact. C is country-driven. As a treaty-based IGO, our work is anchored in national priorities. This is what enables government engagement and critically land access, a major barrier for most private sector projects. E is for evidence-based. We align with the highest international standards like Gold Standard and VERA. We use advanced MRV, leveraging Korea's forest and agriculture satellite, AI analytics, and drones. This provides a scientific accuracy and verifiable data the market demands. As the green tagline says, AFoCO transforms institutional trust into investable credibility. So how do we move from strategy to action? This diagram shows our mobilization mechanism. Blended finance is the bridge between this public purpose and private market performance. It follows a clear seed-to scale pathway. ODA provides the seed capital for feasibility and de-risking. MDBs provide growth capital such as guarantees, and private capital comes into scale to proven concept. We are moving from a traditional grant project base and adding a blended finance channel. This channel acts as an invest and de-risking mechanism. It channels catalytic capital into 2 main streams, forest carbon and forest positive economies. Let's look at each of this in detail. So first is about forest carbon. This is our core financial transformation mechanism. We take a traditional ODA project, for example, a reforestation project, and we add a carbon layer. This means we structure our grant-funded project to meet international standards so it has potential to generate high-integrity carbon credits. This simple addition fundamentally changes the project. It moves from being a short-term donor-funded cost to becoming a long-term self-sustaining bankable asset. The benefits are threefold. It extends the sustainability of the project long after ODA funding ends. It attracts private capital and ESG buyers, and it strengthens the links to global carbon markets. Here are some cases that AFoCO can bring and introduce today. As an IGO, we recognize that carbon assets operate across two parallel markets. This dual nature of carbon has always been clear to AFoCO. And for this reason, we have long been engaging with our member countries to discuss a model that can operate across both the regulatory and voluntary markets, especially for forest-based carbon. Many of our countries have been asking for precisely this, a technically robust, interoperable approach tailored to the forest sector. This is what led us to begin shaping our framework. We call it Climate Forest Framework. It was during this journey that we met the Ministry of Economy and Finance, who are here with us today, and learned about the Global Voluntary Carbon Mechanism, GVCM. Their vision for a transparent, credible, and scalable carbon platform resonated deeply with the direction of AFoCO, which was already heading. We are extremely optimistic about what the GVCM will unlock for our member countries in the years ahead. Just as AFoCO's restoration framework was built upon Korea's highly successful regraining experience, we believe that this carbon model has the potential to become another benchmark success of the ROK to our region. Next is the community-based carbon model. Critically, this is not just an environmental or financial model. It is a social one. Our community-based carbon model links carbon finance directly to livelihoods and resilience. It is built on 5 key pillars. One is nursery and reforestation to create jobs, agroforestry systems to diversify income sources, payments for ecosystem services to reward communities, incentives that protect forests, livelihood co-benefits like promoting non-timber forest products, and digital MLV to ensure transparent verification. This model empowers communities as true co-owners of climate action. The small community projects, while impactful, are often not large enough to attract major private investment. Therefore, we must scale up. We do this using a landscape-level approach. We move from individual village projects to province-wide jurisdictional programs. We use a mosaic approach to bundle these smaller projects together. We are already implementing this. We have jurisdictional pilots underway in the Kyrgyz Republic, Laos PDR, and Cambodia. In these pilots, we are integrating agroforestry, livelihoods, and carbon finance. We are establishing community nurseries, leveraging PES, and applying digital MRV across the entire province. The expected outcomes are clear: an increased volume of verified carbon, stronger local governance, enhanced community resilience, and improved readiness for private sector co-financing. So let's look at the second stream from our main diagram, forest positive economies. This is about leveraging forests as long-term economic assets beyond just carbon. This approach integrates 4 concepts. One is economic of mutuality, tying business performance directly to ecosystem health. Second is the fair and transparent benefit sharing across the value chain. Third is sustainable supply chain development. And the last is the finance that rewards regeneration using blended capital. A concrete example is our Dong Le Sap landscape pilot in Cambodia. Here we are demonstrating that forests thrive when we combine nature-based solutions with market-based solutions. This pilot is strategically based on existing carbon project sites across the Tonlesa provinces. We are actively identifying strong community-run enterprises, those producing sustainable goods like cashew, timber, and other agroforestry products, and connecting them to larger market. This creates a synergetic effect across the region at a landscape scale, making the pathway clear and attractive to impact investors who want to achieve both ecological and economic returns. Another critical area is building forest positive supply chain, as seen in our Indonesia pilot, Sulawesi, with partners like the Economics of Mutuality Alliance and Mars, the chocolate company. This diagram shows the root cause of deforestation, a vicious cycle driven by the short-termism of economic development. Quick profits from agriculture expansion or illegal logging are prioritized over long-term ecological costs. That means a simple plant and protect approach cannot break this cycle. We must shift the incentives of all value chain actors from smallholder producers and community enterprises to aggregators and off-takers. By using sustainable finance and market-based tools, we embed nature-based solutions directly into governance, markets, and local livelihoods. This is how AFoCO moves from deforestation economies to restoration economies. And this is our roadmap for scaling up these forest-positive economies, the AFoCO ASEAN Living Lab. We've used seed-to-scale grants to test and prove the business models of each country. Once we have initial success, we move to phase 2 of full blended finance scale-up roadmap. This gives private mainstream capital the security and confidence it needs to enter the project at scale. To summarize, AFoCO is stepping forward as a strategic enabler in the climate investment ecosystem. As this diagram shows, we are the central convener that connects governments, MDBs, private investors, and communities. We provide the policy credibility, safeguards, and local access. We strengthen our members' capacity to design and execute these blended projects. We build trust through transparency. Everything I have discussed today is outlined in much greater detail in our new publication, AFoCO's Blended Finance Report for the Climate Action Plan. I encourage you to scan the QR code on the screen to download a copy. And finally, I'd like to personally invite you to our next side event, Innovative Approaches to Envisioning Nature-Based Solutions by the ASEAN AFoCO Living Lab. It will be held this coming Monday from 3:15 to 4:15 at ASEAN Pavilion. We would be delighted to welcome you all. We believe AFoCO is uniquely positioned to be Asia's intergovernmental bridge, turning public trust into actionable, scalable finance for our forests. Thank you very much for your attention. Please don't hesitate to approach me after the event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sezin, for your insightful presentation. I believe this session introduced AFoCO's seed-to-scale concept and its nature-based and market-based solutions and organizations' long-term blended financing mechanism. Thank you so much. And now we will move to our partner case study next. For the first case study, focusing on the global voluntary carbon market, short the GVCM, please welcome the representative from the Korea Ministry of Economy and Finance. Please, the floor is yours.
Nice to meet you. I'm Doi Kim, Director of Green Climate Policy Division at the Ministry of Economy of Finance. It is my pleasure to present the GBCM implementation plan today. My presentation consists of two parts. For the first part of the presentation, I will talk about the collaboration on establishing the GBCM with the UNFCCC and GGGI. For the second part, I will present Korea's plan for the GBCM. First, let me outline our cooperation with UNFCCC. The key areas of cooperation include developing methodologies for issuing credible carbon credits. We will also work together to facilitate international credit trading. Both sides will provide capacity building support for developing countries as well. Moreover, we'll explore the ways of leveraging private sector investment for the GBCM. Next, I would like to clearly highlight the scope of collaboration with the UNFCCC. By clarifying the boundaries, we hope to minimize any unnecessary misunderstandings. Our cooperation focuses strictly on activities aligned with Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Other mechanisms and markets fall outside the scope of UNFCCC support. We believe this clarity will help assure transparency and credibility as we develop the GBCM. And GGGI is also signing the MOUs and collaborating to establish the GBCM. GGGI will support the review of methodologies and MRV programs. They will also manage mitigation project registration and issuance carbon credits. In addition, they plan to implement a pilot subject. Lastly, we will also strengthen the capability of market participants and oversee project integrity and credibility. Now, I will present Korea's plan for the GBCM. First, I will explain why GBCM. The trading volume of the carbon credit market is expected to grow, but has recently declined. This indicates that despite its strong potential, the market's activation remains limited due to a lack of credibility. Meanwhile, at COP29, the agreement was reached on the Article 6 rulebook, it establishing the foundation of Article 6 aligned market. So the vision of GBCM is to bridge the volunteer carbon market and Article 6. This will be pursued by strengthen market credibility and transparency. Then what is the definition of GBCM? The GBCM Global Voluntary Carbon Market is a new type of voluntary carbon market aligned with Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. It is a market that enhances the credibility and transparency of existing voluntary carbon markets, thereby enabling great global transactions. The GBCM has 5 key characteristics. Is promote private sector-driven reduction activities. Second is based on credible standards. Third is it aims to issue reliable carbon credits, and fourth, it operates under a multilateral or plurilateral framework. Fifth, it is a global market where carbon credits can be exchanged. Next is the implementation progress. In May this year, our ministry has signed an MOU with the UNFCCC and GGGI, and the GBCM was included in the new government's economic growth strategy in August. So now is the time to start preparing the implementation plan. But to make the implementation plan, the challenges in carbon market should be identified. So first, I would like to talk about the challenges of the carbon credit markets. The existing market has four main challenges. First is project participants and developed countries has facing multiple constraints. The project participants lack information of the market, and the developing countries do not have a well-formed institutional framework. Second is the lack of credibility in credit issuance. This means it is difficult to monitor the reduction in real time. And there is so many issuance bodies where the decreases in issuance credibility. The second challenge is the absence of trading frameworks in many countries. And fourth, there is so many bilateral agreements. This increase administrative inefficiencies. For example, look at the picture on the right. So in order to build a market with 5 participating countries, we need a total of 10 bilateral agreements. So the GBCM implementation plan was established to solve these challenges, and it consists of 4 frameworks. First is project support, and second one is issuance framework, third is trading, and fourth is multilateral or plurilateral frameworks. First is the project support framework. GBCM provides full cycle support from project development to implementation. We plan to work together with the UNFCCC and GGGI. We will build a pilot project pipeline and develop various financial models. We also plan to strengthen the capacity of developing countries. We will support GBCM participation by establishing a project approval standard and progress, as well as reporting system. Second one is issuance framework. We plan to establish issuance body. The carbon reduction amount will be calculated based on the PACM methodologies, and the credit registration and issuance will be swift. Moreover, the government GBCM registry will be linked to the UN or national registry. We will use satellite and IoT sensors to monitor reductions in real time. Also, we will use AI to analyze the collected data. The third is a trading framework. We will apply blockchain technology to securely or immutably record the transaction history. Also, the credit will be broken down into smaller units to increase liquidity. Moreover, we will promote the long-term and future investment, and we will link the market with the foreign carbon markets to facilitate the credit exchanges in the GBCM. Last is the multilateral or plurilateral cooperation framework. We plan to form multilateral or plurilateral consultative groups. We will function under operational foundation that can be used by all. joint trading platform will increase trade volume and liquidity. It will also enable cross-border transfer of credits among participating countries. So it's creating efficient plurilateral platforms. The next is future plans. In 2026, we plan to establish issuance bodies and develop MRB standards and methodologies, designate verification institutions, and establish a plurilateral framework. After 2027, we will implement pilot projects. We will launch the full-scale project reflecting the result of the pilot projects. Thank you. This is the end of my presentation. We kindly ask for your continued interest, participation, and support for the success of GVCM. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Director Doi Kim, for sharing with us all the contributions, amazing work Korean government making in the voluntary carbon market. So the next, we would like to invite to share the case study with us, the strategy and practical approach to leveraging carbon finance for project implementation. And we would like to welcome the representative from the Global Climate Council to share with us with the next case study. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Soo-kyung Lee. I'm from Global Carbon Council. I'm the Associate Director of the MBS program. I would like to introduce some kind of the MBS program under our system. You have to think about that we are keep saying about how can we make the high integrity carbon credits, and then how can we deliver this carbon credit to the society as a product based on the great technology like AI and blockchain something. And then afterwards, we have to, the final goal is to how can we meet the goal of the GHG emission reduction in the globally. So the carbon market is a flexible mechanism, and the Global Carbon Council is a standard program. We provided a methodology, framework, and then some kind of the activities bridging between the implementers, government bodies, and then the off-takers to smoothly working into the carbon market system. So why MBS? There are many different sectors that we have to think about to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. But we are here, Forest Pavilion, and then we are all thinking about the forest ecosystem, and then why MBS is to be crucial. That is a scientific background. It is already published 1 year ago, Nature, that the forest is sound, and then find a new study which is that the forest is only one solution to reduce the real reduction in the greenhouse gas emission globally. So that's why I would like to highlight it on this article. If you can download it in the website, so it is free. Thanks for the Nature. And then, as we are saying that the Director Doi Kim already mentioned that the Korea government is very challenging and to reach the goal of the NDC target. And then, based on the study and then political framework to be renewed, that the voluntary carbon market and then trading scheme is also very benefit to think about to reduce the carbon emission. As you can see this here, there is a compliance market in here. The market size published in 2021, and the voluntary carbon market is still growing. You can compare to the numbers, but it is very small size. But the right side of this figure, everybody I think is very familiar with this figure that most of the 80% of the voluntary carbon market produced based on the agriculture side and then forest ecosystem. So this is a reality. So you might be think about to generate this carbon because carbon market in the voluntary carbon market system. Then you should be careful about what is the nature-based carbon credits, because it is almost 80% of the covered in total of the voluntary carbon market. And then we have to think about the price, because we are in terms of the sustainability, and then incentivized result-based payment should be delivered to the local people. That should be also capturing our own legacies together. So I'm gonna talk about this slide as well. This is published in the World Bank. I assume that it is the last year. You can see the price. That is, the arrow is going up, which is agriculture, and then forestry only. Of course, there is some small upside, which is renewable energy, and then the waste disposal. But the problem is that other sectors is going down. What is the meaning is that is the high integrity carbon is generated from the ecosystem. This is the evidence from the off-takers and then buyer sector. And then you can see the volume of the unit volume of the carbon credit price. The remarkably ARR, which is afforestation, reforestation, and regeneration carbon credits generated to 24 per ton. That is a very different carbon prices in geographical variation, though, but it is the average price is very remarkable compared to the other technical-based carbon market systems. So this is the real world. So buyer sectors and the off-takers, they also think about the two fates. The first fate is that they would like to capturing the carbon credits with a high integrity, and then permanence issue was being solved. That is, it should be guaranteed as a high integrity carbon credits. And then the second one is that this is the market usable to trading as a trader. So the buyers always think about, this is a good product that I can capturing, or this is a good product that I can sell to the others. So, but the problem is that MBS parties still have some very big challenges. There are 5 challenges that we studied in our under our organization. The first one is that this is only about the challenges in the MBS carbon credit. I'm not going to tell about the other sectors because I'm only focusing on the MBS part. The first one is that everybody understands that it is too complex of the carbon market methodology itself. And then the methodology sometimes is fragmented everywhere. So we have to follow in this chapter, and then afterwards we have to jumping into the another chapter. It's gonna be more than 10 pages, 10 books, chapters that we have to follow. The second thing is that insufficient, inconsistent MLV capacity. I'm not gonna talk about the MLV standard. I would like to talk about the capacity. So that's why the AFoCO's real work is very crucial to align and then to diminish with this the degree of the challenges to match up this inconsistency to overcome in the local level. And then the third one is uncertainty in carbon stock estimation. In the Paris Agreement 6.4, they are still ongoing to negotiate and then communicate with the technical groups. Within the technical groups, the one very big topic is the uncertainty. How can we deal with these uncertainty issues? So I'm not deeply talk about this uncertainty issue, but from our end, we solve this problem. So we proudly showing our uncertainty methodology. You can download on our website. The fourth one is a high transaction cost in the global south. So that's why the Mr. Toy Kim think about the blockchain-based carbon market trading system should be very useful to reduce the transaction cost. The fifth one is a trust defeat and then quality concern. That is the challenges that we have to be think about to generate our carbon credit. So within these challenges, we would like to solve the problems as a vision under our MBS program. So the GCC established almost 10 years ago in Qatar, Doha, which is very obvious, right? Qatar is one of the big country to generate oil and many fossil fuels. But yes, but we stayed in the very heart of the GHG emission pumping in the country. So we aligned with the CORSIA approved carbon credit. We already get full eligibility phase from the CORSIA, and then we our carbon credit is compensated to the Singapore tax base, tax scheme. Sorry. And then our registry is linked with the S&P Global, so which is very transparently moving forward to tracking the all carbon trading schemes. So based on this the point is that I would like to highlight our vision is the first one is that we would like to generate the high integrity credit, and the second is that something for everybody as per their needs. So we have to deal with every kind of different stakeholders' needs as a part of the standard platform. So I already mentioned that we launched in 2016, and then everybody recognize the 2022 of the FIFA World Cup. During the FIFA World Cup, that is the only one big international event to net zero, reach the net zero the goal. That is at the time that we GCC have many of the carbon credit can be generated under our system. And then now we are almost close to communicate with ICVCM to get the CCP plus label. So it will be clear result will be popped up within this year. So we are as a standard to generate the carbon credit. We would like to provide a very high integrity carbon credit framework. So this is what we are doing as of now. So I already mentioned that the GCC's operation team is headquartered in the Qatar-based one, and then we have a different stakeholder groups to as a third-party advisory and then steering committees. So they are ad hoc-based working. So every single details carbon project is should be submitted under our system, and then afterwards they invade to checking all kinds of details in order to issue the carbon credits. The advisory group is comprising experts from the Canada, China, France, Norway, South Africa, South Korea, and Vietnam. Most of the experts are former UNFCCC officers, and then the academia, and then government and entities, and then NGO. So the MBS approach, based on these challenges, we would like to overcome these challenges to following this approach. Three approaches I would like to talk about today. We already capturing the challenges. The first one is a fragmented and then complex methodology that I pointed out. So from our end, we would like to a most simplification methodology should be very useful. So I'm going to talk about this MBS framework, a very simplified methodology. And then the second one is a full digitalization of the carbon credit transaction process. Not just only the transaction part. If you submit the all document under our system, it generated a full digitalized based platform, which we call it GCC 2.0 registry. And then the third one is a partnership and outreach. Our methodology looks like a very simple. The project standard is a general document, and then the following this project standard is aligned with the UNFCCC, Paris Agreement, ICBCM, and then CORSIA, ICOA, the kind of the overall schemes that we follow up, and then we matched up the all project standard to follow this individual framework. And the methodology is divided into two parts, which is tools and modules. So this is a very simple acronym, and then this is exactly the same with the CDM methodology framework. And then the last one is RS guidance. So methodology development part is two different angles, which is a top-down and then bottom-up. Top-down meaning is that we developed as a GCC operation teams, we generated and we published our own methodology, and then the bottom-up, which is from the outside, like potential partners, they would like to implement their own specific project based on their methodology, then we invite them as external groups. So we launched the three different methodology, which is all types of AFoCO, except for the wetland side. You can cover just only single one GCC MA number 1 methodology. And then mangrove restoration, you can apply the MA number 2. The third one is the peatland re-wetting methodology, which is the world first publication in the carbon market system. It is now in the global stakeholder consultation. After the 1 month, it will be finally published, and then you guys can apply based on this methodology. So and then bottom-up methodology, we are working on these 4 different type of methodology, which is the first one is submitted by the Singaporean topic on the blue carbon methodology, and then the second one is RS-based AI model in the mangrove restoration methodology, submitted by the Republic of Korea. And then the third one is a UAV-based new methodology in the agriculture and then agroforestry sector, submitted by the Vietnam. And then the last one is a Russian Federation for fire protection new methodology. MRV, including the remote sensing data sets, it is newly opened. We're launching the RS guidance only, and then afterwards we would like to revise the MBS methodology that I will mention, the 2 types of methodology, MA number 1, MA number 2. You can upload it and then revise using the RS guidance, RS technology itself as well. RS guidance, which is a competitive strengthening from our end, which is we set the threshold. This is a very bottom line to protect our UN carbon credits as a high integrity. This is accuracy and then coin kappa value. I'm not going to tell detailed about this one, but you can Google searching what is the gerrymandering approach is. So our RS guidance is generated and then modified to protect our carbon credit to prohibited this gerrymandering issue. So this is a document that we generated all the sections, and then I'm very thankful this document to generated from the academia involvement from the especially for the Kookmin University and then Gwangju National University. So I'm very proud of as my country also giving some very good solution to boost up the high integrity carbon credit in the voluntary carbon market system. And then the second one is the permanence period. Everybody thinking about the carbon credit is very challengeable, and then how can we believe this carbon project is still ongoing after I'm dying or somehow? So following this skepticism, our framework, we are protecting our own legacy 40 to 100 years. That is credits longevity, we would say that. And then reverse risk is also assessed, and then with a differentiated buffer contribution, which is exactly the same line with the Paris Agreement 6.4 as well. And then the third one is a mandatory monitoring even after credit issuance end, which is a very burden from the developers though, but it is very protective from the off-takers and the buyer side perspectives. We would like to make the very balancing between the buyer sectors and the developers. So it's a very big argument about this mandatory monitoring. It should be necessary or not, but finally we call it, this is a mandatory activity, so we have to think about it. And environmental and then social economic safeguard, we have our own standard form as well, which is very simple and then exactly following the SDG target. So when you get past this standard form, then you can get the plus label, which is biodiversity protection, community right, and the participation. The kind of the stuff to make like your carbon credit as more something new and then something promoted branding story to give them as a more the more good products. And then third one is a little bit foggy, but I'm not gonna tell this one. So this is a whole document that we already uploaded under our portal system, so you can download it very easily. And then this is a full digitalized process. I'm not gonna detail about this one, but this is a full process. We already settled down for digitalized one. It is already more than 4 years to operate in this time, and then you can submit your project, and then this gonna be passed based on the digitalized function. As I mentioned, the SFB Global Meta Registry, which is directly linked to our registry scheme, so it is generated very openly. So it should be very ensured the transparency. This is our PML. It is just a slide capture, and then a slide capture about the issuance credit. This is a full the website capturing that I would like to highlight it at this moment. Thank you for my presentation. This is my end of the day because I have another session with AFoCO tomorrow 11 in our session next to that side, so you can more deeply understand what is the MBS framework under our system. Thank you very much, and then thank you for inviting such a great event to AFoCO.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lee Soo-kyung, for sharing with us insight about the carbon market and the NBS challenges and the vision of GCC as well as methodology of GCC. I believe everyone got very meaningful information. And without further ado, we will be now transitioning to the next session, which is a panel discussion. And to proceed with the panel discussion, I would like to invite Mr. Choi Song-ho, the team leader of the Carbon Project team at AFoCO Secretariat, to proceed with the panel discussion. And actually, we had also one speaker from the Asian Development Bank, but due to the flight schedule, they couldn't arrive on time. But yeah, I think Mr. Choi during the panel discussion can share more.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all distinguished speakers for insightful presentation. We will now begin the panel discussion, but due to the time limitation, we will how can I say only make questions. If you have any questions, please proceed. Open the floor. Do you have any questions? maybe I will moderator and then I will make a questions. One questions. How can regional cooperation and the governance mechanism to help reduce investment and strengthen investor confidence in nature-based and community-driven models is available to? Can I? Yeah, right. This is it's okay, right? This one. Okay.
Thank you very much. Me again. Sorry. Yeah. So the governance, right? The regional. Okay, that is a very challenging from my end as well, because I mean, as a standard, we are located in the Qatar base, and then we are the only one standard framework to generate the carbon credit in the global south. But we have the very challenging issue to how can you harmonize together within the different perspectives in different regional-based approaches. And then the lots of stakeholder groups, they have a different era and then different perspectives to engage or to all together. That is very challenging. So as a standard, and then we are tightly thinking about that the most important thing is that what is the outcome, and then what is this outcome should be applied in the next for next generation. So that it should be, we think about from the future to the backward, and then we are now in the current phases. So to solve these future generations the aspect more positively and then more brightly way to protect our own legacy as of now is the good way of thinking to harmonize all together. And then the second thing is that I'm very appreciative to the AFoCO's intervention, because I mean, local level working and to implement some kind of the real action, which is very important, and then it is real challenging, right? And then there is a different gap of the understanding and then capacity to implement all kinds of this single area. So AFoCO have a very big momentum, and then almost every all burden to solve this all activities on the ground, but they success story they made up. So this kind of the AFoCO's intervention as an international organization to capturing the all different sectors together in a governance issue. That's my answer.
Thank you very much. Also, I have one question to Director Do-hee Kim. Maybe for him, I will only speak in Korean. 김도익 과장님, GVCM 모델의 경우 지역 협력과 거버넌스 메커니즘은 어떻게 투자 위험을 완화시킬 수 있는지 간단히 설명이 가능하실까요? GVCM 모델이 투자 위험을 어떻게 완화시킬 수 있는지. 예.
GVCM과 그 지역 투자 리스크 완화 쪽과는 뭐 이렇게 지금 깊이 생각해 본 적은 없는데 갑작스럽게 질문을 주시니 생각을 해보면 아무래도 GVCM은 목적이 거래 활성화에 두고 있다고 보고 있거든요. 그래서 거래 활성화에 중점을 두고 있다고 보기 때문에 거래가 활성화되기 위해서는 아무래도 투자를 여러 군데서 다양한 투자처를 발굴하게 되는 거고, 그리고 아까 제가 설명드렸듯이 파이낸스 모델을 개발하는 부분도 들어가 있기 때문에 그런 모델이 다 절충하게 되면은 아마 지역의 투자 유치 관련된 리스크도 다양하게 좀 분산시킬 수 있지 않을까 그렇게 생각합니다.
So we haven't really thought deeply about how to reduce and mitigate the risks. But if I think about it, the main goal of GVCM is to vitalize trading of carbon credits. And so in order to do this, I think it's important to identify various sources to receive investment. And also I mentioned that we're going to develop a financial model regarding carbon credits as well. So I think these measures can help mitigate the risks.
Thank you very much, the Director Doi Kim. Considering the time limitation, I would like to finish the panel discussion, and then I invite the MC, the Ms. Aida, and then could you proceed closing?
I think we are very sharp on finishing our event. Thank you everyone for joining and spending time with us, and thank you for sharing with your time. And I believe that today's side event was also very informative to you too. And following the other days, we hope that you will enjoy your stay in Belém. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your patience as we got our online speakers ready to go. So welcome to this session on strengthening international cooperation and promoting sustainable forest management of temperate and boreal forests. My name is Megan Masters. I'm Deputy Director at the Canadian Forest Service, and I'm pleased to be your moderator for this session today. Thank you for joining. So we'll begin this session with remarks from Deputy Director General of the Forest Agency of Japan. So please welcome Mr. Eiji Tanimura to the stage.
Hello everyone. Thank you for joining this side event today. My name is Eiji Tanimura, Deputy Director General of the Forestry Agency of Japan. The 12 Montreal Process member countries, including Canada, China, and Japan, collectively account for approximately half of the world's forest area, about 60% of global planted forest. So it is critically important to maintain and enhance the economic, social, and environmental value of all types of forests for the benefit of present and future generations through sustainable forest management in these regions. Since its inception in 1994, the Montreal Process have worked continuously to develop criteria and indicators that serve as an objective yardstick for sustainable forest management, and to collect and report data based on their these indicators. This side event, titled Criteria and Indicators for the Conservation and Sustainable Management of Boreal and Temperate Forests, will feature presentation from Canada, China, and Japan on how they have applied these criteria and indicators to assess and report progress and challenge in conserving and sustainably managing boreal and temperate forests. It will also provide an opportunity to exchange views of future challenges. Through this event, we hope to explore together the role of monitoring sustainable forest management using criteria and indicators in boreal and temperate forests for climate change mitigation, as well as indicators themselves and the measurement methods employed. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mr. Tanimura, for opening the session and setting the stage for our panel this afternoon. So the panel will walk us through the Montreal Process criteria and indicators, as well as provide examples of sustainable forest management from their respective countries. Our panel consists of Mr. Graham Stinson. He's Director of Forest Information with the Canadian Forest Service of Natural Resources Canada. Graham started with the Forest Service nearly 25 years ago, working on forest carbon science before managing Canada's National Forest Inventory and then moving to his current role. Mr. Yutaka Kawashima is a Senior Policy Analyst of the International Affairs and Forest Agency of Japan. In his previous position, he managed the Forest Carbon Sink Strategy Office of the Forest Agency. Since 2009, he's been engaged in international cooperation on sustainable forest management and tree building or breeding study at the Japan International Cooperation Agency and the Forestry Breeding Center of the Forestry and Forest Products Research Institute. Dr. Jinping Lei is the liaison officer of the Montreal Process, chief expert to the Research Institute of Forestry, of the Chinese Academy of Forestry. She's director of Sustainable Forestry Research and Development Center, and she is mainly engaged in forest ecology, criteria and indicators of sustainable forest management, and has long been involved in international forest issues related to sustainable forest management. Please join me in welcoming first Mr. Graham Stinson, who will now provide an overview of the Montreal Process and Canada's experiences in sustainable forest management. Mr. Stinson.
And the question I'm asking now as we try to advance the years is, does our C&I framework supply the information needed by society to make well-informed decisions? For example, there's a lot of concern about forest degradation, but what do people mean exactly when they say forest degradation? Right now there's an effort being led by the UN FAO to develop a definition that can become a globally accepted definition, and that's a really important effort. Once that's clarified, and we're using that definition for reporting in the Global Forest Resource Assessment and other policies take up that definition, will we be able to find the answers to questions about degradation using our C&I framework? If I want to know the extent of forest degradation, can I find the answer? Right now, the Montreal Process member countries are working on that very challenge. We started an effort which we call the Sydney Initiative because it began when Australia hosted the 32nd meeting of the Montreal Process Working Group. And definitely invite colleagues to reach out to myself or other Montreal Process colleagues if you're interested in this work. The number one challenge, of course, is the subject of this COP. Welcome to the Anthropocene. We're changing everything on this planet, including its climate. And forests are facing unprecedented change, especially in Canada where the warming is happening very fast. We've got climate warming, tree growth is being affected. We've got a number of papers showing the data on that. We have more extreme weather, droughts, heat waves, and a lot more wildfire. And of course, that's global headlines. Often Canada is making global headlines in wildfire, and we wish we weren't, but often we are. And of course, on top of all this, there's all the human pressures on forests. So we know the future will be different from the present, and it'll be different from the past. The good news is our capabilities are growing. Our forest monitoring technologies are advancing rapidly. Our ecological forecasting capabilities are advancing rapidly, and also we're embracing multiple ways of knowing. So the institutionalization of SFM in Canada gives us a framework for informing how we face these challenges. And this is my last slide. Coming back to the question I asked on my first slide, of course, this isn't a new question, and I think it may be even too soon to answer. We've only practicing sustainable forest management since 1994, and in many boreal forests, the harvest rotation is 100 years. The challenges have already evolved and grown since 1994, and unfortunately, I think many of us in this room would agree that the margins for error are shrinking. So to achieve the desired outcomes through these challenging times ahead, we can identify successes in our practice and build on these using the C&I framework. We can also identify opportunities to learn and improve, not just in how we practice SFM, but also in how we inform policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Graham, for bringing us on the journey in sustainable forest management in Canada and some of the key challenges that it faces. So I'd now like to welcome Mr. Yutaka Kawashima to speak to Japan's approach to monitoring and reporting sustainable forest management. Mr. Kawashima.
Thank you, Megan-san, for introduction. My name is Itaka Kawashima, Senior Policy Analyst for International Affairs from Forestry Agency of Japan. Today, I will introduce Japan's approach to monitoring and reporting sustainable forest management. On this world map, please show the presentation. Thank you. On this world map, you can see the countries participating in the Montreal Process. Forests in these countries account for 90% of the world temperate and boreal forests. Next slide, please. First, let me explain about the definition, but I will introduce one adopted by United Nations in 2008. It said that forest management is a dynamic and evolving concept aiming to maintain and enhance the economic, social, and environmental values of all types of forests for the benefit of present and future generations. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So the Montreal Process has established 7 criteria for assessing sustainable forest management. Criterion 7, the institutional and economic framework, forms the foundation. Criteria 3, forest ecosystem health and vitality, supports the others. Together, they enable biodiversity conservation, forest productivity, and water protection, carbon cyclic, and long-term socioeconomic benefits. Next slide, please. In Japan, criteria 1 to 4 are monitored using National Forest Inventory. For all 7 criteria, we also use government statistics, white papers, and academic literatures for evaluations. Next, please. Next. This slide shows the history of Montreal Process criteria and indicators. They were first developed in 1995, then revised significantly in 2006 and 2008. The latest version published in 2015, following the structure introduced in 2008. Next, please. Here are the current criteria and indicators from 2015 version. You can access this information on the Montreal Process website. Next, please. Japan has published 4 national reports between 2003 and 2025. The latest, our 4th report, was released in March 2025 and covers 54 criteria for the 2008 version. Next, please. Let me introduce about Japan's National Forest Inventories. The NFI was launched in 1999 to monitor and evaluate forests using a nationally standardized method. Survey plots are established across the country on a 4-kilometer grid, and field surveys are conducted on the 5-year cycle at approximately 15,000 forest plots. As shown in the table below, the survey covers a wide range of topics. Next, please. This slide shows the field survey method used in the National Forest Inventories. Japan's forests are about 25 million hectares, covering 68% of the land. On the left, you see the distribution of forest. National forest is dark in green, account for 31%, and private and public forest in light green accounts for 69%. On the right is Japan's forest planning system, which includes national and regional plans for national forests and multi-level plans for private forests. Next, please. Now let me briefly introduce the result of our latest report for each criterion. Criterion 1, biological diversity. Japan has diverse climate zone and forest ecosystems. About 3,000 species, or 40% of all vascular plants in Japan, are found in forest, including 2,400 species in planted forest. This shows that the planted forests also play an important role in biodiversity. Next, please. Criterion 2, forest productivity. Japan's growing stock reached about 5.6 billion cubic meters in 2022, mainly due to planted forests established in 1950s to 1970s. Even after harvesting, growing stock continues to increase, indicating sustainable forest levels. Among non-timber forest products, mushrooms are the main products. Next, please. Criterion 3, forest health and vitality. Damage from pine nematodes decreased to 1/10 of the level in 1979. Wildfire damage is mainly caused by Sika deer and accounting for about 70% of the affected areas. Forest fires have also decreased, with burned area now around 700 hectares annually. Next, please. Criterion 4, soil and water protection. About 49% of Japan's forest area is designated as protection forest for soil and water conservation. Additional designations are made in multiple land regional forest plans. Next, please. Criterion 5, carbon cycle. In fiscal year 2022, forests in Japan absorbed about 16 million tons of carbon, and total forest carbon stock is estimated at 2 billion tons. Harvested wood products store about 5 million tons of carbon. Japan promotes wood use through guidelines and supports biomass energy with fed-in tariff and premium systems. Next, please. Criterion 6, socioeconomic benefits. This slide shows investment in the forest sector and employment in mountain villages. Public expectation for forests remain high, especially for climate change mitigation, disaster prevention, and water resource conservation. Next, please. Criterion 7, institutional framework. Japan's forest policies are based on the Forest and Forestry Basic Act and the Forest Act. Recent initiatives include the Forest Environment Tax and Transfer Tax to secure funding for forest management and a system allowing municipalities to manage poorly maintained private forest. Next, please. Finally, challenges and international cooperation. While measuring techniques for forest growing stock and carbon are advanced, biodiversity assessments still face many challenges. Also, there's no international definition of forest degradation yet. So Montreal Process countries share efforts through international symposia and micro symposia. Japan hosted an international symposium on forestry and biodiversity in December 2026 and participating in study group on forest degradation led by Canada and New Zealand. So next slide, please. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kawashima, for providing us the overview of the Montreal Process and indicators in the context of Japan, and also for highlighting the importance of international cooperation in this space. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Lei to speak to contributions of sustainable forest management in China to the Sustainable Development Goals. Dr. Lei? So just while we're waiting to get the presentation up and the technology moving forward, I'm actually going to ask first.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
It's okay? Right. I can't hear you.
Hear you.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
The associated value of the ecosystem to the different target
of SDGs. And that's the SDG index of most provinces in an increasing trend. So that's our many results. What's the territory of China, the different natural resource endowment in each province, and the differences in the level of economic development and policy implementation resulted in significant spatial differences in the contribution of ecosystem to the SDGs. And the research method is based on Earth observation data, and it's we just want to carry out a key study to try to use this kind of data to evaluate. So finally, I'd like to share the future we still are facing. I mentioned some indicators and different quantification measures are used for different indicators. So because of so many indicators, so quantification methods should be developed. And the conversion of the same indicator across different scales and data-related issues. Sometimes the data is lack of data, and sometimes the accuracy of the data it should be improved. And finally, international cooperation and exchange are most important ways. Just like they use this kind of forest pavilion, we share our different views and our experience regarding the CNI of IFSA. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lei, for, is this working? Hello? Yep. Thank you, Dr. Lei, for clearly linking the Montreal Process to the Sustainable Development Goals and highlighting... Whoops. And highlighting China's experience in sustainable forest management. So now we have a number of we have a couple questions for the panel. So, Mr. Kawashima, if you'd like to come up to the stage and perhaps we can walk through. Okay, so the first question. Can you hear? No. Can you hear me now? No, still no. Okay, so maybe I'll just be very loud, if I can, until we can get that going. So, hello, is this better? Okay, perfect. So my first question is to Mr. Kawashima.
Alô, som, ei, som, testando, som. Alô? Não, mas essa porra do negócio não tá modulando o negócio. Som, ei, som. Alô? Som, ei, som. Som. Som, som. Qual é o do microfone? Som, ei, som. Porra, não tá sendo esse áudio aqui agora, mano. Caralho, não tá. Som, ei, som. Se alguém falar mais alto. Se alguém falar mais alto, será que vai sair? Som. Demais, né?
Remaining 60% natural forest. So next please. So traditionally, forest was valued for timber supply, disaster prevention, and water conservation. Today, expectations have expanded to include climate change mitigation and biodiversity conservation. And sustainable forest management must Therefore, adapt across generations to meet changing social needs. In Japan, forestry operates on a long-term cycle. Tree planted today are harvested about 50 years later. About 60% of the planted forests established between 1950s and 1970s have now reached their harvesting stage. However, the population in mountain villages engaged in forestry has declined and aging is progressing. Therefore, fostering young people to work in forestry and revitalizing these communities have become key challenges. Next, please. So, traditional Japanese forestry relied heavily on manual labor. Today, to build modern forestry sector, technologies such as mechanization with remote operation, automation, and laser-based measuring are being introduced. Next, please. Under the forest planning systems, plantation resources are managed through cyclical approach. So harvesting, using, and growing, harvest, use, plant, and grow, while ensuring land conservation and biodiversity. So this promotes sustainable forest management and timber utilization. So next, please. Next, please. So finally, I would like to introduce a unique initiative in Japan, the Kikigaki Koshien. The term Koshien comes from Japan's famous national high school baseball tournament. So in this program, high school students interview masters of forestry and fisheries, document their stories, and share them widely. Through these efforts, traditional and local knowledge accumulated over decades in passing to younger generations. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Yukata, for the insightful presentation. And I would now like to invite all the panelists to be seated on the stage. With this, I would like to now go to the indigenous representative. How are indigenous people applying their traditional knowledge to contribute to the sustainable management of boreal and temperate forests amid the challenges of climate change?
Thank you, Pooja, and thank you for the presentation, and thank you for having me here today. Thank you for being in the audience. Thanks to Brazil for having us as well. Before I kind of get into answering that question, I just, for everybody, including my fellow panelists, who here has actually set foot in the boreal forest? Right on. So, thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'd like to point out that picture with the mountains right there. That's very similar. Life that is in the boreal forest. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we're here in the Amazon, which is known as the lungs of the planet, and I'm from the liver of the planet. I'm from where all of the things that we don't want in the atmosphere get stored and stowed away. And that's changing. And so with the question being, how are indigenous peoples applying traditional knowledge and science to contribute to the sustainability of the forest? When I speak about the forest, as an Indigenous person, as a Métis person, and then as a wildland firefighter, I can't speak about it in a way where there isn't agency or life to the forest. And I've seen this in my fire career of how foresters and wildland firefighters and a fire. The fire's creeping, the fire's walking, the fire's taking a run. The fire has agency, it has life. It's an expression of the life that is in the forest. And when we look at the forest as a set of resources, and we look at the forest as what it can do for us, as opposed to a profound and deeply interconnected system of life, we extract ourselves from the forest, we extract ourselves from that landscape, and we put up a wall between ourselves and the understanding that we are not in control of the forest and its life cycles, but much rather we're at the will of the forest and its life cycles. And that's something that's been embodied in Indigenous knowledge and science. In my people's language, the Métis language of Michif, we've been gifted a word from our Cree ancestors, and this word is Wikodowan. And there's no English equivalent to it, but this word means the interconnectedness of everything. That's the closest you can get to it. And this shapes our worldview and our understanding of where not only are we in nature, but where our obligations are in nature. And we don't look at the forest as something to be managed. We look at it as something to be stewarded. So within that, even how we apply fire to the land to regenerate and to make sure that the forest is healthy and resilient and is maintaining certain cycles of life that, if you were a scientist, would say improve biodiversity, soil health, et cetera, what we would say is that sustains life. We don't need a laboratory for that. We're living in that laboratory and we're seeing the impacts of it every day. Impacts and knowledge and science has been passed down generationally in the context of that picture right there for more than 14,000 years, when that used to be under a kilometer of ice. So how we're doing that today is we're working to bring back Indigenous fire stewardship techniques, forest stewardship techniques, and try to, I hate to use the word decolonize, but try to make sure that management isn't what stops us from stewardship. But thank you for the question.
Thank you so much, Dane, for grounding us in the critical indigenous knowledge system. And yeah, I do agree that temperate and boreal forests are the liver of the planet. And you told something like they are the indigenous roles are to be managed and to be assured, and that's really what I believe. And now I would like to go to our next youth panelist, Anna. So how are young professionals and students contributing to climate resilient, sustainable forest management and restoration in boreal and temperate region? Can you highlight how youth are integrating into well-established system to influence sustainable forest management practices, restoration strategies, or climate policy discussion in your region?
Well, as a Brazilian, I am as shocked as you are to be here speaking on behalf of Germany. Well, first of all, some context about Germany. Germany has a temperate forest, and it's covered more or less. Are you German? You look like you could be German. Okay. It has roughly 30% of forest, and it's mainly owned by private, smallholders. And what is happening there is that they planted a lot of spruce, right? So everything is getting super dry, and then the bark beetle comes, and then it's a disaster. So what the youth is doing on a voluntary level is, after the fires that we had in the Saxon Switzerland, which is actually quite close to where I'm living, a lot of youth initiatives went there, and they're helping with the management post-fire and replanting the trees that were burned. But also, since I'm also part of IFSA, I also have to say that IFSA is quite active in shaping the policy dialogues. For example, I am part of Forest Europe, so that means that every couple of months we have a meeting with the ministers where we are able to give our ideas of how temperate and boreal forests should be managed in the future. And on the research side of things, we're also very present at the European Forest Institute, so many of us are either trainees or already, part of their body. And, since I also in Forest Europe, I should also mention Then in Sweden, there are also many initiatives, for example, with the youth coming from the Sami people, with reindeer and mapping of areas that should be, well, mapped for their use considering climate change. So we have a range of different initiatives. Also in the urban area close to Berlin and Leipzig as well, with students planting trees there.
Thank you, Anna, for bringing youth perspective vividly into this space. And yeah, obviously, your work in Forest Europe Subcommission and IFSA, yeah, I can relate that being from Brazilian, how you are contributing to the sustainable and temperate forest in Germany as well. Now, we will like to move to the round second. So we will move into some challenges and opportunity. Now, I would like to start from Dan. What challenges do young people, IPs, indigenous people face in engaging meaningfully in forest governance, and how can institutions help address them?
Yeah. Thank you for that question, Pooja. And, this is a tricky question to answer because, the challenges we face are as old as the colonial systems that we're currently under. And Canada's colonial genocide on Indigenous peoples within Canada was not only a genocide of death and destruction, but there was an ongoing cultural genocide designed to separate Indigenous peoples from their identity. Our first ever Prime Minister was quoted as saying, if you can't kill the Indian, kill the Indian in the child. And so through boarding schools or residential schools, and the suppression of Indigenous knowledge and science and lifeways and culture and languages, there's been a disconnection between us and our forests. And that disconnection was put forward in the aspirations of extracting as much wealth from Canada's forests to, at first, the British Crown, and now to the global trading floor. So with that, and with all of our forestry policies and systems set up upon exactly that, of keeping us away from the resources that don't see as resources, but as obligations to steward and be stewarded by, there exists this colonial system in which we have to constantly not only advocate for our rights, but then also have to stand at the doors of the ivory tower of academia and get some grad student out to go study one facet of what is a brilliant tapestry and mosaic of knowledge and science, because that is the way academia is working. So within that, it's a constant uphill battle to be part of forest governance. And I do got to give Canada some credit. Like, there are certain rights and legislation that we as Indigenous people in Canada enjoy that folks in the other parts of the world, Indigenous peoples, do not enjoy. But, the government really moves at the speed of the trading floor. The economic value of Canada's forests is what drives decision making. And so now the approach we're trying to take as Indigenous peoples is understanding that economic reconciliation is actually sustainable economics. And it's sustainable economics that have benefits to all Canadians and to all of those who are breathing air right now. When we sustain and manage the boreal forest, especially our boreal peatlands, more in a stewardship way as opposed to in a management way, those ecosystems are healthier. There's more carbon sequestered, biodiversity is bolstered. And we've always known as Indigenous peoples that forests don't stop at the borders you put upon them. The provincial and colonial borders that are imposed are a detriment to Canada's not only economic resilience in forests, but to the health of Canadians. And you can see that with things like the pine beetle epidemic in Canada. The pine beetle epidemic did not get to the British Columbia border and decide it was done. It swept right across into Alberta, and it continues to move. So that lack of intergovernmental cohesion at times is also another detriment to us coming to the table with solutions.
Thank you, Dan, for outlining the barriers faced by the indigenous community. And it's so sad to know that despite being one of the most important stakeholder are contributing in the caring of nature. Indigenous people are always deprived from using the resources, and they are not even considered as one of the stakeholders in management. So we hope this will go on progressing. The things will go on progressing on a good side, and indigenous people will be given their right they deserve. Okay, now I would like to move to Yutaka. So could you share some specific initiative that your organization has undertaken to actively involve and support youth in forest management and climate resilience?
Thank you for the questions. Actually, I mentioned in my presentation, forestry is really cross-generational endeavor. So in Japan, trees we plant today, we won't be harvested for 50 years. So it means sustainable boreal and temperate forest isn't something one generation can do alone. So it requires cooperation across time. So what's exciting is how complementary those generations can be. So experienced professionals bring deep knowledge and long-term perspectives. Younger generations bring innovation, energy, and fresh ideas. When we combine these strengths, we can create climate resilience forest management, balancing timber production, biodiversity, and carbon sequestration. So in Japan, the Forestry Agency has launched several initiatives. The first is Green Employment Program, which started back in 2003. It combines employment and training for newcomers, helping them build skills and addressing labor shortages. Then there's Mori Hub, our innovation platform. Mori means forest in Japanese. So it's all about bringing smart forestry technologies, ICT, drones, laser-based resource measurement into real work practices. And we also promote Mori-gyo, a new approach to forest industries. Instead of focusing only on timber, we create new value, which is recreation, wellness, carbon credit, even regional revitalizations. So I can show you some figures. And finally, we expected forestry technical colleges. Today, in early 2000, there are only 2 forest colleges in Japan. But now, in 2025, we have 25 nationwide technical forest colleges, so including the curriculum including ICT and smart forestry technologies. So we involving the young people and their fresh ideas into the forest activities, so we can broaden the perspective of forest management, not only for timber, but also other ecosystem services which forest provides. That's our approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yukata. It's great to know how you are engaging with the young people, either through the Green Employment Program or through providing trainings to them. So this is what we really expect from the seniors to support us and our initiatives. Now, I will also like to pass a question to a youth speaker, where I wanted to know what challenges do young people face in engaging meaningfully in the forest governance, and how can institutions help to address them? You can mention the suggestion to the institution as well.
Okay, so challenges. So coming from Europe, which I don't, but well, I think in Germany it's a very hierarchical area to work. So most of the time, like, you're a forester because your dad was a forester and your grandfather was a forester, and then you have all those ideas that are already like kind of set in stone, and then you come with new ideas which might be not easily accepted by the people who are there before you. and since you have this culture of like strong respect, so for example in German you don't even say like you have to be very formal when addressing someone older than you. It's also reflected in the working culture. And at the policy level, I would say that, so we are many. Just in IFSA, we are more than 1,000. So there are many more that are not in IFSA. And then when you go to those spaces, we have one representative, and we have to speak on behalf of a multitude of people that we maybe don't know what they think about how to do things. So I think we need more space, and of course, more space means more funding, and like long-term partnerships and collaborations with those mechanisms so that we can occupy those spaces. And also train, because we will be there in the future. So investing in us is also an opportunity for our generation to be more prepared when it comes to us to do all that has been done now, or hopefully differently.
Thank you so much, Anna, for bringing the reality to the stage. Yeah, as a young people, I can also relate the challenges that you have shared. Obviously, giving access to the policy room, and then like limited access to the funding, and another thing is like the trust. Like we are always, most of the times, not always, most of the time, the trust issue come is they say like young people are like quite less experienced in the specific topic. So thank you so much for bringing this out. And now I would like to move to the third question. It's about the collaboration. How can intergenerational partnership enhance sustainable forest management? I'm sorry. How can intergenerational partnership enhance sustainable forest management in practice and accelerate climate action in Boreal and Temperate region? In your experience, what are the barriers preventing intergenerational cooperation in forestry sector, and how can they overcome? Now I would like to give it to you.
Thank you very much. I would like to say again, forests are both legacy and future asset. So, but intergenerational cooperation isn't always easy. So, older generations, including me, often expected income from timber, forest for timber, while younger generation may see forestry as less attractive. So, the solution is redefine forests as drivers of climate action and regional development. So that create new values everyone can really around. I explained in my presentation at the beginning, so people's expectation to the forest is changing. So in 1950s, when my grandfather planted forest, they expected revenue from timber. But now my age, the forest is ready to harvest, but now we are facing other big issues, climate change and biodiversity conservation. So what they expected is different from what we need. So I think so collaborating these different perspectives on forest in different generations, so we have to understand the value of forest, and we exchange our view and try to merge it. So we are not denying the timber production, but the older generation, including me, should understand the needs for facing the climate change mitigations. So such kind of intergenerational collaboration is really, really need in these days. That's what I would like to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for sharing your opinion. I would have to disagree when it comes, respectfully. When it comes to, well, I think we are interested in forests, but I think our concept of forests and how we use them is broader than one you have. I think we are a generation that believes that forests are here not only for the timber, but also for, I don't know, going for a walk or doing sports there, or as a space for community. And I think we have all those ideas, right? And then when we come to collaborate with you, you have all those boxes. and you expect us to fit our ideas into your boxes, which, granted, is what older people do. So you have the role to put us in a framework that gives us the ability to do things in a way that will work. But we have the possibility to offer you the new ideas and the innovation, which can be hard for both of us. So we have all to make concessions. Like, you have to listen a bit, and we have to listen a bit. Of course, not you. I'm just using you as a representative. But yeah, and I think that's all. Like, change only happens with passion, but not only passion is needed to, of course, enforce change, so both is needed. Also, a project, long-term project. And I'm sorry if I offended you in any way.
Yeah, I'm going off script here because I didn't expect to see that picture, but it's a really good visual aid. Look at those small spruce trees in the front there, and look at the forest in the background. By the time that those saplings are fully grown, what's that forest look like in the back? How can you conceptualize that? And that forest is not just those trees. That forest is also that elk. It's also that grassland. It is that entire landscape and ecosystem. And to your point, that's how these things have to be managed. They can't be managed in a box. And so when we take an intergenerational approach, we have to take an intergenerational approach to recognize that forests do not experience time the same way a human does. I've been fortunate enough to protect stands of 3,000-year-old trees in southern Alberta that are the oldest trees in Western Canada, on the eastern side of the Rockies. And within that, there's really profound teachings in my culture and then in other Indigenous cultures, the teaching of 7 generations. So everything you do in life, whether it's, buying your friend dinner or signing up for your next job or pumping several thousand barrels of oil a day out of a marine reserve, you have to do that with the mindset and the intention of honoring 7 generations who came before you to make a good future for 7 generations who come after you. And I think there's no more beautiful landscape or canvas to paint that picture than the forest. You can go carve your face onto the side of a mountain and people can pay an admission fee to go see how great you were. But when you take care of forests, when you take care of our air and our land and that elk that is absolutely delicious, you're transmitting compassion, humanity, love, and kindness across time. You don't need to carve your face into a mountain. You'll be felt by generations to come. And it's within that once you are seeing through that mindset, even when it is fiscal year end or the reporting season and you're stacking up your spreadsheets of the value that forest created, you can still have both. You can still have 7 generations of wealth if you don't sacrifice that for 1 quarter or 1 reporting season or 1 economic downturn worth of wealth. As long as you're maintaining that mindset, that's the best chance we have to sustain our forests. And I've been really fortunate to see that in my community, so many young folks, despite this colonial divide that Canada tried to put between us and our culture, have literally been coming out of the woodwork, and I've used that word intentionally, to learn our culture, to learn these things, because they care about these things. They care about those cultures. And when your culture is based on the land and the forest, you can't just look at it as, money in your pocket. It's you in the forest. So I think intergenerationality is, I really applaud you for putting this question on today's panel. It's the focus that needs to be taken here. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. And then I really, really couldn't more agree on the concept of 7th generation. Yeah, we should, not only for 1 generation, we should think for the more generation to come. And also, for the intergenerational collaboration, not only elder is the young, we are innovative, and with the experience of the older, we can go with the innovative ideas of the younger. That's what intergenerational collaboration is. And now I'm almost at the end of this questionnaire, so I have last question left. What shared message should this intergenerational panel send to COP30 negotiators and the forest leader about sustaining northern forest? Now I would like to start it from Anna.
Wow, kind of hard to come after you, but well, I think one sentence, okay. We are here, we are eager to contribute, listen to us, give us the opportunity.
But may I make some comments to Anna's comment if we have time? Okay. Thank you very much, Anna. Your comment is very, very true. And I would like to say about 40 years ago, I was young generation. And at that time, we see the world and we see the forest from different perspectives, what we see now. And I agree, forest is not for timber. I understand. And we try to create the new actions to enhance the ecosystem service. So I think I'm not a god, so I cannot forecast in the future. But I would like to say, I would like to see what you will say after 40 years to seeing this planet and to see this forest. So, okay, thank you very much. That's what I wanted to point out. And the one word, one sentence. So, experience and innovation together create climate resilient forest. That's what I would like to say. Thank you very much.
Yeah, a soundbite message would be go touch grass, get out of the lab, and learn from the folks on the land where the solutions happen what sustainability truly looks like.
So thank you so much for this compelling message to the global leaders and negotiators. Now we'd like to open the floor for questionnaire. If you have any questions to our panelists, maybe you can ask some question if you have any. The floor is open for questions. So, anybody has any question? Not? Nobody? So, okay. Then I think we are almost at the end of our panel discussion. On behalf of the International Forest Student Association, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to all the esteemed panelists and the audience for being part of this important panel discussion. It is absolute pleasure to have you all. And from today's conversation reminded us of something essential. Forests survive because relationships survive between land and people, elder and the younger, and the innovation and the knowledge. Today's conversation highlighted something very clear. Sustaining temperate and boreal requires the wisdom of experience, strength of tradition, and the vision of youth. When these come together, forests stand a chance of thriving in a warming climate. Once again, thank you so much, everyone.
CD, and Kate from FPAC, Forest Products Association in Canada. And we changed the style. Rather than you listen to us, we're just going to try to get different perspectives from different temperate and boreal forest areas. So we've got a colleague from New Zealand as well, and South Africa. All right, cool. You're quiet. There you go. Over to you, James.
No, thank you very much, Anand, and thanks for inviting me to moderate the discussion today. And we felt we'll bring it a bit louder here. Okay, this is the voice of the BBC here, calling from Belém. So we thought we'd have more of a dialogue discussion. This is the People's COP, and we're pivoting into implementation. And Nature for Climate, the coalition where I'm the director of advocacy, has been doing a lot of work looking at NDCs, but increasingly been working with parties as well to look at what implementation means and our strategy going forward. For the last 10 years since the Paris Agreement, it's been very much about ambition. How do we build large coalitions to bring nature-based solutions, the forgotten solution, forward? We know it can deliver a further solution, and it was about getting as much NBS in NDCs. And we've been doing an analysis, and we've done quite well. Most NDCs have nature-based solutions in them. I think about 55 of the published NDCs have forests in. About 15 of them have plantations specifically in them, and numerous mentions within that. But the real challenge is how, when we move to implementation, this is long tail, a bit like the internet. There's infinite ways that these NDCs. So it's now about how do we create much more targeted coalitions, working groups, expert groups to really work together, both in countries, which many of you do, but actually where is those linkages between parties? So Boreal, I'm really excited and hopefully explore, but we've had a similar conversation around mountains and MBS. And Switzerland's very keen to look at mountain MBS, but to work with New Zealand, to look at what Georgia's doing, look at different areas of where they can share some of that technical expertise, and look what's working on that enabling environment. Analysis in the Baco to Belém roadmap's been done, and there's a huge bar graph that just says private finance, which means there aren't plans. But the enabling conditions are going to be so critical to realizing some of that investment. So hopefully today we can pick through and go, actually, this is really important that we're looking at biomes in terms of what is it we're protecting, how we do that, what we're restoring, but most importantly, what does it mean for working lands, and how do we work delivering towards those NDCs. So hopefully that's the conversation. I'm looking forward to listening and getting into those details. So what I thought we'd do is use the free speakers we got to create a stimulus to spur the conversation, and then also hear from the wider room and hopefully have a bit of a conversation. But ultimately where I'd like us to get to by the end of this conversation is not just talking about what we have done, but ways of things that we can do to get, not just do. And I'm very big on turning MBS from a noun and taxonomies and definitions into a verb again in terms of practice and what we're doing, but also what we can do together. And that's what, to me, I think is really important, these COP moments amongst the chaos, is that we leave with kind of skeletons of plans that we can follow up on, so that when we come back in future years, we can present some of that to a crowd to get other people to follow. So enough from me. I'm going to hand over first to Anand to introduce yourself and to maybe just explain a bit about why we're in a tropical forest area. What's so important about boreal forest and the work we're doing, and kind of just ground this conversation with a bit of context. And I'm assuming many people in this room know this area, so hopefully we can ground it. And then if the other speakers, I think Kate goes next, and then Jens, and then we can bring in the rest of the floor.
Yeah. Come join us.
So yeah, come and have a seat. Please join in. So just for people joining, we're just going to do it as a bit of a fishbowl and have free speakers to stimulate, and then hopefully everyone can bring their own experiences into this conversation. So Anand, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
So Anand Punja from Forest Stewardship Council. You can't hear me, okay. I hate getting microphone right up close. I've got a slide up there to show, to kind of a little bit showcase of what we're trying to do more of. We're set up for forest stewardship, for forest stewards of all sorts, sizes, entities, people, institutional, and of course we're very much known for the role for the last 30 years, and we'll continue to play the role around responsible sourcing, the prong on the left-hand side, and to show how we can help around working lands in particular to get more value into working lands. However, I would say that's getting more and more challenging. Like FSC's been going 30 years, PFC's been going 20-something. Our brands are pretty well known in different markets in different ways, I guess, and very much becoming the norm of consumer products. So, yeah, we're getting more and more questions around premiums for people who go FSC. I'm sure you guys are getting similar kind of questions. So how do we move away from that and effectively give forest stewards more choice to look at different markets where they can to do the work, the good work they're doing on the ground. And that's why we're looking at more around conservation areas and restoration areas as well. And in a landscape, especially in a landscape such as Canada, we've got quite a strong Canadian contingent here. Of course, a lot of the Canadian entities that manage forests, whether indigenous, whether in industry, whether they're managing vast tracts of landscapes, and so we're very much seeing how you get that intersectionality, if you like, between responsible sourcing, which is effectively like summarizing into Target 10 of the KMGBF. Conservation, Target 3, we see that as around OECMs in particular, and strong push and stuff doing around OECMs, and how do you get more leverage and finance in that way through that OECM route or protected area routes, and then restoration as well. And so we're trying to support connect the work that FSC Forest Stewards do in that landscape that they work on across those three different markets, and give them more choice to have the opportunity to do bioeconomy, do it better, do conservation, and to restore. And again, going back to the Canadian context, it's something that I've been working on with our colleagues in Canada recently quite a bit on OECMs and stuff like that. So and it's quite relevant in my head at the moment in terms of restoration in particular is where there's, of course, a strong mining footprint, and how, again, then forest industry is picking up that restoration entity there as well. In terms of the boreal, just last point from me as well, we're sitting here in the tropics. I think the key thing for the boreal forests are where the carbon sits from a climate agenda in particular, and they're looking at, as you move away from the tropics and away from the equator, north and south, you get effectively less carbon in the above ground biomass, and you get it more and more in the below ground biomass in the soil. And so how do you then manage that effectively? It becomes less necessarily about the trees and more about the habitats and the soil carbon, and how do you then effectively mitigate and adapt to how do you get that balance right across those three kind of areas to connect them to NBC roadmap strategies, and give countries the opportunity to get the balance that they think is right or right for their society and how that society wants to develop. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to move across to the slide deck because Kate's going to be going on next, and I'll just help her with the slides.
Yeah, to see if it seems to have turned itself off. Maybe it's there. First of all, can I invite anyone that's joined? If you want to join the fishbowl, come and sit up here. There's some water as well on chairs if that invites you in. But do come and join the circle if you come in, and hopefully we can hear from your own experiences after the speakers do the stimulation. Just a question, Anand, partly before we hand over to Kate here. is that how can FFC support the private sector to diversify, based on some of these, the income streams, in terms of delivering some of those NDC goals? You know, like what is FFC's role in supporting the private sector, and how does your accreditation help do that?
Yeah, I think it's just about giving more choice and of how stewards want to steward their land, or the land of governments, or you know, kind of. There's different models, so it's. We've been so. I think in previous years we've been so stuck on that kind of left-hand side of responsible sourcing side of things. So it's just diversification of income streams, really. And as you said, that private sector balance sheet gap, if you like, and there's apparently money floating around. It's not necessarily in that bioeconomy responsible sourcing space in the ways we've traditionally seen it. So it's about enabling that in new ways and matching that to conservation, matching that to restoration, and kind of, I think, giving forest stewards that more choice in particular. And for us, it's really that we do good standards on the ground, we've got a good brand that connects to markets, and then we have strong assurance systems that assure those who want to buy, whether it's consumer groups, whether it's carbon or biodiversity credits, etc., or where they want to restore, especially in the restoration stuff. It's something that's going to start happening in FSC. We just had our own General Assembly a couple of weeks ago, and there was a restoration motion passed there, so we'll be more active in that space. And that's very much, I think that's going to looking at the benefits of long-term restoration and not the kind of short-term cycles that you currently see. That is kind of money-led, if you like, as well. Just to check, do we have anyone online? Do you know? Yeah, because then it is being live streamed, so we should just check whether we've got anyone online that. I don't know if we can get them involved or not into the conversation, but
we can see. Let's carry on and deal the online conversation in a minute. Kate, great to have you here. Thank you. Great to introduce yourself and give us a presentation. But sure. I'm also quite interested in the NDC, Canada's NDC specifically, and the signals that's giving to the private sector. You know, like how has that changed things since the publication? You know, what does that actually mean for you? And maybe responding a bit to Anand, the three priorities up there. You know, what does that mean in reality in that kind of long-term strategy of the role of the private sector in delivering some of those?
Great.
Change your slide.
We can go to the next slide, Anand. Yeah, thank you. And so my name is Kate Lindsay. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for the Forest Products Association of Canada, and so we represent a large group of companies that are very integrated. So they manage forests, they manufacture timber, engineered wood products, they make pulp and paper, and they make green electricity. And it's a very integrated group of companies operating across Canada. FPAC was also, we believe, the first industry association to require third-party certification as a... I think that's the battery. Okay, thanks. And we did that in 2002. So we saw a very large uptick of hectares certified in Canada. So just want to relate to my certification colleagues here. So right now there's 166 million hectares certified in Canada. And I do think, maybe just building on Anand, that we have an opportunity as we want to scale up perhaps the built environment with wood, opportunities for green electricity with bio-based or biomass. We still have that foundation of good governance in Canada, as well as high adoption of certification. And I just wanted to talk about, so to James's point, so Canada's NDC does include LULUCF, so land use change, and forestry. But I think the Canadian government was deliberate not to put a specific quantitative target for forests, because we know that with climate change, our forests are vulnerable. And if folks are reading the news, you'll see that Canada has experienced 2 very bad fire years in the last 3 years. 18 million hectares burned, and
there is obviously a strong focus on that, but it's really finding ways to make forests more effective carbon sinks. That's going to be a key question. If we go to the next slide, now if we look at trends in forest and carbon storage, what we see is that globally speaking, forest area has declined by about 4% over the last 25-30 years. What is interesting is that it's partially made up so far because the carbon density of forests has actually increased that's remaining, which is the blue line that you see on top, and that you see that the carbon captured in forest has basically seen a 1% decline, but overall, that decline is lower than the decline in forest coverage. At the same time, also, it's putting more stress onto the systems. If we go to the next slide, now what is interesting, and here we come a bit to maybe the boreal forest. If we see tropical forests, and these are just a few countries to illustrate that, often there's a focus on the loss of coverage in tropical countries where we see the same graph basically that we had before for Indonesia in terms of the forest area loss and what that means in terms of carbon density and carbon captured. Now if you look at Finland as a boreal example, and maybe sort of a bit more fortunate when it came to recent fire seasons or so, but basically you see there has been an increase in the forest area, and actually quite significant higher increase in sort of carbon density and carbon captured. So again, I think that illustrates that over the last decades there is a role in boreal forests that's definitely extremely important, and that requires I think further attention certainly how to maximize that. The right point is just the same slide that we had before, depicting that on a global balance. If we move further to the next one. Now, again, I think this is something that I think all of you will be familiar with. It's the fact that forests obviously have the potential of being a carbon sink, but they're also a source of emissions from deforestation. And if we come back to the land use area, deforestation is the biggest source of emissions for land use change and forest sectors. The co-benefits that come with protecting forests in terms of water, biodiversity and livelihoods. Now the point about the fragility, which was very much the point that you made, I guess, with the hesitation in Canada to put down targets because you don't know what's going to happen. Then obviously there is a very strong economic dimensions of forests, and including boreal forests. I think we had the example from Canada. I think the same is true in other places. Just we had the example of Finland, and the questions of how to basically ensure that economy becomes circular and generates income, but also enhancing carbon storage. And finally, as we all know, forests are key dimension of global cooperation with REDD+ and carbon markets and the Association to Climate Finance. Then if we move on, now here we see a picture of forest-related climate action NDCs. Overall, there's 69% of new NDCs that have been announced include afforestation. That's quite an increase from previous ones. Big focus on sustainable forest management. The other areas are also important, but sort of slightly going down. Reducing deforestation is definitely a key point. Conservation and restoration, including wetlands. But also agroforestry, which is sort of the economic side of the equation, so to speak. So this is just an initial picture, and then we maybe can move to the next slide. So what is key for enhancing really collective action on climate? I guess it's around the ambition for scaling up, then being implementable, and that goes to the policy question basically on saying, well, you have to have targets that you can translate into practice and reality. And you know, that I think that is a challenge for forests, but I think that's a challenge for the agenda overall. And the last part is on the investable and the finance that is mobilized to enable policy implementation and also the associated technology. And I think it's really, I mean, it's really important to think about, I mean, also against the backdrop of the public goods dimension, to see that how you can have policies that basically better reflect the true cost and the true value of forests into policy making, into the economy, so that, you know, you really incentivize policies and also investments that you know, protect forests in the function that they play, not just, you know, in the sort of direct economy, but also in the sort of benefits they yield for broader society. So I think with that, I'll stop and pass.
Just as a way of a follow-up question, and I think grounding it in specificity, getting really into the kind of implementation language here, it'd just be useful to get a sense of how the OECD can support both the parties moving from their NDCs into implementation, but also non-state actors in this space, especially around some of the social and economic benefits, to make that political case. You know, often we hear politicians still talking about kind of forests, environment versus economy. And it's actually, you know, we hear all the time around here that that isn't the case at all. The two can be done together. And it's just getting understanding how the OECD as an organization, you know, can provide that evidence base to have conversations in country based in evidence, and some of the ways that OECD can support many of the people here in making that case for investment, but also making that case for politicians to prioritize some of these areas as we move away from NDCs.
Many thanks. So, I mean, the OECD has just relatively recently started a work program on forests in the context on broader net zero plus work at the OECD. And I think as part of that work, we definitely want to build out that evidence base. And at the end of the day, I think what is key, as I mentioned, there's already quite a bit of evidence that shows the value that is yielded by you know, the ecosystem services provided by forests. And these values, I mean, they're not just values related to climate change directly. They're values for society, for basically, you know, the electorate, people who vote politicians. You know, and I think you see that very much when you can come to discussions about, you know, what is important to them. I think to make it concrete, I think the policies tend to be abstract. At the same time, I think it's very important to inform policymakers of the economic. Of the true economic value that resides basically in these ecosystems, in the forest, and the basically, you know, full cost reflective way that you say, well, you can have the economic benefit of a forest, but with a sort of, you know, sustainable management approach, you can capture with that by also, you know, providing at least for you know, for continued ecosystem services. Of course, there are trade-offs, and I think part of the issue will be to make trade-offs apparent and say, okay, can you make a cost-benefit analysis? And at some point, that is the part of politics that you say you have conflicting objectives, you have multiple objectives, you have limited resources, and you need to take a decision. But I think making sure that decision is fully informed and reflects the different services, the different economic benefits that are yielded by, you know, whatever is in question is absolutely essential. And I think I have to stay a bit abstract because we also very much recognize that as everything basically, it's very context specific. You know, I think forests differ if you speak about tropical forests or boreal forests. The societies, you know, the values associated with them, they all come into the mix when it comes to policy making. I think also the economic uses, the way they store carbon, as we heard, that varies. So there's no one-size-fits-all golden bullet, but I think it's really key to just make sure that in terms of sound policy making, you integrate maybe you know, you internalize the externalities. You integrate the real value into political decision making, and also have policy and regulation that is basically making sure that it's also reflecting in private investment decisions.
Thank you very much. And now thanks first of all to the speakers. What I'd like to do is open up the conversation to the floor and some of the experiences. I always recognise when we come to COPs, we're often speaking to a room full of world-leading experts on some of these areas. So I always think it's a shame we don't involve people. So it's not just about addressing questions to speakers. I'm really interested in how you're seeing some of those barriers and challenges to your own country NDCs or in a broader sense if you've done that analysis. But actually what you think the next steps to get that enabling environment moving off the back of NDCs and what you really want to be seeing from governments, and also some of the broader coalitions or organisations that are set up to support governments or influence governments on behalf of some of the pressure groups you might have heard today. So just really it's interesting if you could introduce yourself and where you're from, and then just give us some of your thoughts. If you can try and keep it to 2 or 3 minutes would be great as well, so we get as many people as possible.
Thorsten Arendt, Head of Advocacy at PFC International. No one likes divorce, right? But we are still divorcing forests from the use of forest products way too much. Most of us still think that using paper is a bad thing. Some people rather have, or many people rather have aluminum windows than wooden windows. The reality, however, is that we have to build as many buildings in the next 25 years than we have built the last 2,000 years. And if we were to recognize the connection between forest and the way the forest products as a timber is used, then we could understand the full contribution that forests deliver apart from standing in the forest. And that is exactly where we need to move to. And for example, if we think of timber in construction, we actually have a triple win situation. We have the carbon long-term stored in the building. We have carbon being stored again in the forest. But also, we will increase the demand for timber and therefore the value of timber, and therefore, hopefully, free up investments to grow forests in degraded areas or restore degraded areas.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jane Maloney from PAMSA in South Africa. I agree with you 110%. Even paper does store carbon, albeit for a small period of time. My government actually, we have a climate change bill. We have sectoral emission targets. We have a carbon budget, and we have a carbon tax. And our government actually recognizes the sequestration of carbon in harvested wood products. So we have a gazetted methodology, and we have, it's like a mass balance. So they recognize when the timber comes in, it's accounted for in the product. So the company can deduct how much is stored in the product from what its emissions are. And it really works. I have a question for the gentleman from the OECD. Is it your name? Sorry, I didn't catch it. Okay. So I noticed that Finland, the statistics were fantastic for the increase in afforestation. I also noticed that its FAO statistics from 2020. And recently I saw a letter that was written by the Finnish and the Swedish minister to Ursula in the EU Commission, saying that they are gravely concerned about their land use change targets, and that they are actually not going to manage to make those targets. So my question is, what is the problem? Are the targets too high, because if there's this recognition of storage and harvested wood products, then it's cyclical. The fact that possibly over a 5-year period, you're going to see nature coming back, you're going to see more tree growth, and carbon is cyclical, the storage of it. So what is the problem? Is it a policy issue? You can put on your personal hat if you like. You obviously not going to represent the whole OECD.
Look, the basic answer would have to be that I'm afraid I wouldn't know about that, because the example of Finland, I think it showed the evolution over the last 25 years, but it wasn't. It was just as an example of what happened basically in terms of the the forest area, and then the associated carbon storage, etc. I think what you also saw on the graph is, there was a flattening out, and that may be, related to the point that you made, would be my guess. But I don't really have the detailed information. It was an illustrative example, just to say, you had a country, boreal forest, a slight increase in forest coverage, quite significant increase in carbon density and carbon capture, although flattening out towards the end. So I'm sorry if I got you.
Jane, I have maybe a little bit more information, just because we have colleagues in Sweden and Finland, and that was my little research before here, was because I knew that the EU had committed numeric targets for their LULUCF within their NDCs, and Sweden and Finland in particular, although they've increased their growing stock, absolutely, they're experiencing forest health challenges. So whether it's a bark beetle outbreak or essentially their forests are switching from a sink to a source, not because of harvesting, but rather because of climate change impacts. So it's very similar to what's happening in Canada. And so I read that same letter, that it would be almost counterintuitive for them to be forced to reduce harvesting, because in fact to have that harvested wood product and that carbon stored in the products, and then to be able to go out and practice climate smart forestry would actually be the better response versus Ursula asking them to reduce harvest. So yeah, it's something that we're watching and probably ensuring our government doesn't maybe fall into the same situation.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting, because I think this is where the synergies kind of aspect comes in as well, because this is where the more nature and diversity comes in as well. So yeah, I guess we have seen in boreal forests in particular less and less diversity of species being used, regenerated in forests as well. And that has impacted on forest health and resilience as well. And so because I think what we've seen with economic cycles in particular, we've seen slightly quicker growing, more resilient species, or different types of resilient species coming through. And now because of the impact of that, and that's where I think the KMGBF then has an impact as well. Are we seeing that balance and that trade-off in kind of quick growing trees that do capture carbon and store it, or do we want to see kind of like maybe a bit more slower, more resilient forests that may be protecting the forests against wildfire in the long term as well? And then in boreal and of course in boreal forests in particular, the hard thing, you have some big iconic wildlife species as well, but not as much as a tropical forest, that where the ecosystem services and kind of what you see and the tangibility of that in particular is less kind of epic in some ways, kind of like to capture hearts more than minds, if you like, what I mean, right? In terms of the other aspects of ecosystem services, and what is it? How are you then benefiting from? How are you then pulling in finance for those and that diversity of finance that is there?
I've got a question for Fort, building a bit off this gentleman's intervention.
Sorry, James, just going to be. This guy's got.
Well, I don't want to
carry on.
derail where you're sending this. I think I know a lot of the folks here, maybe not everyone. My name is Rick Fox. I used to be the bioeconomy coordinator for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And now I'm teaching forest bioeconomy at University of California, Berkeley. I no longer work for the U.S. government. But I actually, what I keep thinking about, and especially these last couple of days, I remember the Montreal Process criteria and indicators from the 1990s. And here I am. The main reason I'm here is for the Bioeconomy Challenge being launched by the COP30 presidency, which is getting into these metrics. Of course, we have FSC and PEFC certification schemes. So on one level, I'm like, okay, we have to stitch these things together and not reinvent the wheel. As foresters, we know that forest management contributes to ecosystem resilience, and we know that we have tools for decades, if not centuries, about forecasting ecosystem outcomes. So how do we put these things together to tell the story, to destigmatize or to remarry forestry and forests? But the other thing that I've been thinking about a lot, and I mentioned this yesterday, Winston Churchill's quote about never waste a crisis. So we have to do something. And one of the things that was kind of exciting about the previous administration's bioeconomy strategy in the U.S., which no longer exists, that was like, here's a lot of money. We have to do as much as we can, as soon as we can. So just send the money out there and let's see what works. And then the private sector can come in and replicate. So we have these crisis situations, particularly those of us who live in wildfire-prone continents, I guess I would say at this point. Los Angeles burned. There's fires that burn through the winter in Canada. And half a province seems like burned down the other year. So how do we, this is going to sound a little cynical and I don't want it to be this way, but these are opportunities where, okay, we must rebuild. And never mind the fires, how about some conflict zones that are going to need rebuilding, hopefully very soon? I just came over from the Ukraine Pavilion. So these are opportunities where there's probably political will and a lot of investment and frankly some opportunity for reasonable profit to use forest products at major scales, whether it's construction. I'm really glad you mentioned energy. That's kind of like the third rail, but there are ways to be responsible about using wood for energy as well. So where the need is greatest, can we mobilize and demonstrate to the global community that at massive scales we can and should be using our forests in ways that will sequester more carbon, will improve ecosystem resilience, potentially increase sequestration rates, or at least avoid wildfire and all the emissions that result. So let's do something big now.
Yeah, and I think building on that point.
And the housing program in Canada is a great opportunity, by the way, as well.
So there's a great example of an NDC. Lebanon's got actually a really good NDC. I think UNDP worked with them, that recognises in southern Lebanon, where they've been bombed quite heavily, the role of building nature-based solutions into the city's redevelopment and the vernacular. And obviously the tree of Lebanon is a very important part. And they've managed to write an NDC where the kind of culture's written into it as well. And I think there's a real opportunity for looking at vernacular buildings and the culture of vernacular buildings and the craft and the beauty that comes into that. And you're seeing that in places like Peru, where they have a jurisdictional red that's indigenous-led, who have, using the jurisdictional red, to also think about what is the indigenous economy that's going to grow out of that by using those working lands, protecting, restoring and managing, but also building in education and culture and new skills and bringing technology to mean indigenous people are flying the drones and doing the mapping, and a very participatory approach to doing the red. And it's, often not talked about how jurisdictional red can deliver that, working with planning codes from the government to make sure that those products are used. And I wonder if there's more of a thing. What I hear in the UK is lots of people lobbying against planning rules and vernacular standards and building from a country where it's actually the buildings look the way they do because they were based on the forest that they were made out of is the design. And we've kind of lost some of those cultural elements and have a very standard vernacular in our cities, where when traditional building standards in Germany, in Finland, in UK, others, the way that our places look was based upon the forestry, on the forests, and doing that. And is there a chance to embrace that kind of cultural elements within countries in the way that Lebanon's done, to bring that in, which actually then relinks the working lands to the environment and the forests? And I think that's something that the indigenous seem to have found in some of their articulation of the indigenous economy. Whereas actually, I think there's a space for us in the developed countries to look to that indigenous knowledge. It's probably our own indigenous knowledge originally we have lost, and how we can do that. I'm sounding a bit like William Morris or Ruskin saying this, but I'm interested how those building standards could be used and not just seen as a barrier to economic growth, but actually a driver of culture, of higher standards, of building materials, products, wooden products being used, and not just looking at it through the environmental lens all the time.
Thank you, James. Yeah, something that we're really focused on is, and it used to be almost a dirty word for a while, but industrial strategy. But that's kind of the scale that we need to be working on now, where we can ensure that it's not just siloed in various different departments within government. So more of a horizontal, whole of society approach to, like, I'm probably like many of your governments, our government is the largest purchaser of stuff in the country. And so if their procurement policies can see the benefits of nature-based solutions, but in particular in the built environment, even we have a defense base in Canada that is on heavy fuel oil. And what if they could transition to district energy, or a district with biomass base, because there are multiple sawmills around there that have sawdust. And so it's just it's an example of where, if we were thinking very deliberately, and what are the enabling policies for that to happen, what is the procurement language that would enable those departments to choose wood or biomass or bio-based materials to do it at scale. But then I think it's not one thing or the other, it's and, because we also need the protocols in the regulated environment, in the voluntary environment, to be pushing forward, so they're inclusive. And just one example, Canada has an output-based pricing system for carbon, and they're developing an improved forest management standard, but it will be a 100-year crediting period. But the boreal forest generally burns every 50 to 70 years in Canada. So it's not usable for 60% of our forests. So if we can find actually like an avoided wildfire protocol, or something that could be really pushing us in that adaptation, resilience space, as well as a mitigation space. So just a couple things that governments could do.
Well, I think the challenge base, for example, of wood in construction is that building codes are very often local in most countries. And we have very good examples of a few cities who incentivize the use of wood in buildings. Yet it is a step-by-step approach. Right? If we were to go to Germany and try to change the building codes in every municipality, that could take years. And we don't have years. We have to start as soon as possible. So we need actually national governments to take over some decisions that were federated out to the local level. We need to think long term when it comes to how can we best approach this problem, and where do we actually want to be in 2050. So I think PFC and FSC, we are doing everything we can. And as you can see, if you know the history of both organizations, we now have side events together because we know that we need to collaborate. And we need to see that much more with all the other sectors and actors.
Okay, it makes me think of the story of the three little pigs. I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. In my country, you have to change the mindset because people do not want to live in wooden houses. They want bricks. They want real bricks. So it's an uphill battle.
But is it just the bioeconomy in the boreal forest then that plays? Is it that enable the NDC can enable more integration of forests through bioeconomy? That's the biggest opportunity, is what we're landing at. Yep, I guess emotionally that for me, I would like to see that a bit more diverse than that actually as well, because I think that there is a nature aspect, and that's the trade-offs as well, though, right? That's the trade-offs that I think boreal forests that come out in the boreal forest biomes. Do we foresee boreal forests more in that climate space than the nature space? And there's a climate solution because of wood building and all the carbon that can be stored in wood buildings and the products that come out of boreal forests in the long term as well. Yeah, that's where I haven't really kind of landed myself at the moment.
Just really quick, sort of, the economy and the biodiversity and climate meet mostly in forests and oceans. So, and oceans, the marine environment. So that's the nexus. I think maybe that's why this notion of bioeconomy is catching on a little bit, because it's bringing together these three things, which have their huge UN frameworks associated with them. But
maybe just to say a bit as a reaction to this question of massively using wooden buildings, and I think one thing that you must not lose out of mind is also affordability. And I'm not a building expert, but I think in many places building with wood is expensive, and there's a housing crisis. It may not be the case everywhere, and it may also be that there are many places where that is not the case. But if you look at other areas, basically if you look at energy, what's happened, renewable energy got boosted because it became the most affordable energy solution in the world. So that may be more challenging, I guess, with wood because of the nature of how it is grown. I don't know. I don't know. But maybe just to say what then maybe is key is to have an integrated picture, and again find ways to price in the services that is provided. That can be a mitigation service, that can also be a adaptation service, and that's a bit where you can have regulation. I'm a bit skeptical about sort of a sort of Gosplan regulation of say everybody has to build with wood in this type, but I think building it into incentive systems in a different way may be something that is also another option.
Well, there we go. We're at time now, so thank you very much. Thank you very much for FSC and the Forest for Pavilion bringing us together. Hopefully, this will be a start of a conversation. I hope OECD can maybe provide some evidence to show that maybe the bio-circular economy and use of wood building products can actually be cheaper and more affordable, and long-term cost analysis benefit to community could be brought in to show the benefits of changing and using cross-laminated timber even instead of concrete in some cases. It'd be interesting to see where that sits. I have my view of where that maybe is. But I think there's some work, there's some evidence base here to change political hearts and minds, and I think there's some cultural elements in this as well. But again, it's that intersectionality of this that hopefully as we move into implementation, all of us can find ways of working together to make sure that those decisions to deliver these NDCs as we're seeing here can actually create a world that, I like the idea that there's this urgency in crisis, but there's also a lot of what we want to do, we want to be doing anyway. If climate change didn't exist, then having nice vernacular buildings made out of local wood and employing local people in a circular economy that's rich in wildlife is the kind of world I'd like to live in regardless of climate change or biodiversity loss. And I think we sometimes forget that this is a thing of great beauty, being able to work with our local environment and people to build the world that we want to pass on to future generations. And sometimes we don't tell that story and build the evidence that we want to be doing this anyway. climate change just gives us an even more urgent reason to do some of the things that we want to be doing. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, look forward to this going forward. Thanks.
Thank you, James.